I'm scrolling. I know, big surprise. I don't even remember what app it was now. Facebook or YouTube. One of those late night rabbit holes it's so easy to fall into when we should be asleep. And a video comes up. It was lining up celebrities one after another who spent years claiming that they loved their bodies, their big, beautiful, whatever size they were bodies. And now they've lost the weight. The video wasn't directly shaming the celebrities, but it was claiming that now many fans feel betrayed and in some cases think the celebrity has lost their talent with their weight. Basically, if you ever really loved your body, you never would have changed it. So you must have been lying the whole time. That video sat with me all night. It was the first thing I thought of the next morning. At first, I thought I was just bothered by the fact that they were being so judgmental. Like, how dare someone put their health first? Or how dare someone love their healthy body as much as they love their overweight body? But the more I sat with it, the more I realized it wasn't even about them. Welcome. This is Being Human on Purpose. I'm your host, Sara Olin, and I'm really glad you're here. Just a quick reminder that this September we'll be introducing the Perspective series. It'll be the same podcast, but I'll be joined by featured guests who bring a different perspective of life to the mic, because there's no one way to human. If you're interested in sharing your perspective on life or know someone else who might be interested, visit beinghumanonpurpose.com/perspectives for more information and to apply or submit a nomination. Update from the garden. Feather Haven is the name I have given my backyard garden, turned wildlife sanctuary. And every month, the Feather Haven Post Club mails kids a newsletter with a story, field guide, and activities that are all inspired by the real goings-on just outside my back door. Every single child starts at issue 1, no matter when they join. Your child gets welcomed into the garden by Amma, our wise old tree, and meets Edelweiss, our resident great egret, who shows up for breakfast every morning with the air of royalty. Nobody joins in the middle, nobody misses a thing. If you've got a little one in your life who loves nature, loves getting real mail with their name on it, what kid doesn't, or could just use some scream-free, wholesome enrichment, then Feather Haven Post Club is just what you've been looking for. Visit welcometofeatherhaven.com to reserve your child's first issue today. The garden's waiting. All links can be found in the show notes. Now, back to business. Something I haven't really said out loud on this show yet. Something I struggle to say out loud at all. I lost a lot of weight this past year. Real weight. Weight I'd carried for a long time. I did it with help. A medication, tirzepatide. One of the many weight loss medications people are talking about right now. And for a while, it worked. I felt better in my body than I had in years. And then my body said no. I started experiencing some adverse effects. Nothing dramatic, just enough that I had to come off of it. Health first, always. So now, I'm gaining some of it back. Not all of it, but enough that I notice. Enough that I feel it in my clothes and I see it in the mirror. And even though it's only a fraction of what I lost, I already feel like the morbidly obese person I was last summer. What nobody tells you about weight loss and weight management is that eat less, move more is only part of the process. And that's the simple part. What's not simple is everything underneath it. The mental and emotional struggle. How I have learned to use food as a shield as a comfort mechanism, as a cure for boredom, as a way of hurting myself without calling it that. That's not a willpower problem. That's a whole other conversation. One I'm not finished having, and honestly, one I think deserves its own episode down the road. But here's what I keep coming back to. Over time, I finally learned to love myself when I was heavier. That was real. And I love myself now, mid-regain, softer around the edges than I was 3 months ago. That's real too. Both of those things are true at the exact same time. Loving myself was never about the number. It was never about the size. So when that video implied that losing weight proves the love wasn't real, I felt that personally because I'm living proof that it's not an either or. It never was. And here's the part that stings a little if I'm honest. The judgment doesn't just come from people who never lived it. Sometimes it comes from people inside the exact same battle. People who haven't gotten the help they need yet, who are still telling themselves the same lie I used to believe. That it's simple, that it's willpower, that if they really wanted it, they just do it. And if that's the story you're still holding on to, then watching someone else struggle or regain or need help threatens that story. So you judge them, not because you understand it better than they do, but because you don't want to admit you don't understand it at all. It's scary not understanding it. There's no hope in not understanding it. Even people who love me have said some version of it. She could do it if she really wanted to. And I get why they think that. It really does look that simple from the outside. But it's not. It was never that simple. Now, here's where it gets even more uncomfortable. Because I'd love to sit here and act like I've never been the one doing the judging. But I have. Plenty. This isn't the first time I've lost a significant amount of weight. It is the most I've lost, but then I was at the heaviest I've ever been with the most to lose. During one of my first major weight battles, when I was unhappier in my body than I had ever been up to that point, I was harder, quicker to judge, quicker to see the worst in a situation, in a person, in myself. And I didn't know that's what was happening. I thought I was just being honest or realistic or whatever I was telling myself at the time. It was quite a few years ago now. It wasn't until I started feeling better. Losing weight, yes, but really feeling more at peace in my own skin that I could recognize other people doing it because it was once me doing it. You know the Disney Pixar movie Up? The old man hates everything and everyone around him. The misery of losing his wife, his best friend, just pours out of him. That was me. I was the judgmental one, and it had nothing to do with the people or things I was judging. It was coming from somewhere inside me that wasn't at peace yet. If I'm honest, I still catch it sometimes. Less than I used to because I know how to recognize it and where it's coming from. That flash of judgment isn't information about the other person. It's a weather report on my own insides. Once you see that in yourself, you can't unsee it in the video I described earlier, or in the way we treat anybody who dares to change out loud. And we do this to each other constantly. Somebody says something at 22 that they don't believe at 40, and we treat it like it's a signed contract instead of a snapshot of who they were that day. Politicians' old quote gets dragged out like evidence in a trial nobody agreed to stand in. A celebrity loses weight and suddenly the love they claimed for their body gets reclassified, not as growth, but as a lie they'd been telling the whole time. I saw a post on LinkedIn from Snoop Dogg last week that stuck with me. He said something along the lines of people think he's constantly reinventing himself, but he's not. He's just tapping into who he is. And I think that's the whole thing right there. What people call reinvention is sometimes just evolution happening all at once. Reinvention is gutting the kitchen and starting over. Evolution is buying a new toaster oven. Either way, you keep living, and living changes you. But we don't leave room for that. We've decided that consistency is the same thing as integrity, that if you don't feel the same way forever, you must not have really meant it in the first place. And that's just not how being a person works. Not for me, not for anybody. I love my hair. I rock pixie cuts, undercuts, crew cuts, buzz cuts, crops, mohawks, and faux hawks. I dye it pink every October for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, then whatever color I want any other month of the year, from red to purple to green to blue to black. I've made peace, happily, with the fact that people look at me and think they know something about me because of it. Up until about 11 years ago, my hair was almost waist length and blonde. Then, after the end of a long relationship, I chopped it all off. Something I had been wanting to do for years, but he, like all the he's before him, liked it long. I remember right after I cut it short, someone from my past asked me point blank if I was a lesbian now, as if hair length comes with a sexuality attached. The ignorance. And honestly, I love that. Not the assumption, the fact that they're wrong. There's something delicious about being misread by somebody who's decided they've got you figured out from the outside. Same thing happens when people hear the way I talk. They think they know where I land politically or spiritually or whatever box they're reaching for. And they're often wrong about that too. Strangers get it wrong all the time, and I've genuinely stopped caring. That one's easy. Where it gets harder is closer to home. Strangers, I've got no problem with. It's the people who've known me the longest where this gets complicated. I come from a family that loves a good debate, and there was a time when I'd argue about anything just to argue. That part of me still shows up occasionally, more out of reflex than anything else, but somewhere along the way, I stopped wanting to. Not because I ran out of opinions, but because I got tired of wasting my breath on conversations that were never actually open, where the other person had already decided and nothing I said was going to move them, only irritate them. So there are things I don't bring up with certain people I love. Spiritual shifts, some values that have changed, not because I'm ashamed of them, but because I've made a calculation that the conversation isn't going to go anywhere good. And I'd rather protect the relationship than win a point nobody's actually willing to lose. But here's where I have to be honest with myself, because this whole episode is about people getting to evolve without having to defend it. Yet, if I think someone's going to come at me about my past, I will explain myself before they get the chance. I'll get ahead of it, name it myself, on my own terms, before somebody else gets to hand it back to me like a piece of evidence. I do something similar in embarrassing situations. I tend to trip over my own feet. More than once, I have gone down all miscongeniality style in a parking lot. I've learned to just laugh at myself so that others aren't laughing at me. Although, there are times when my clumsiness doesn't have anyone laughing. Is that wisdom? Sometimes. Choosing your battles is real, and not every truth needs an audience. But if I'm being fully honest here, some of it is armor. Enter the laughing at myself. It's me making sure nobody gets to catch me off guard with a version of myself I've already grown past, not a quality about myself that I go bragging about. I believe nobody owes anyone an explanation for who they used to be, and yet here I am, explaining anyway. Both things are true. I just haven't figured out what to do with that yet. Here's the bit I keep coming back to. If this is what happens when people evolve out loud, the accusations, the gotcha, the digging up who you used to be and holding it against who you are now, how many people are just not doing it, not evolving, not saying the true thing, not becoming who they actually are because they've watched what happens to the people who do? That's the real cost of all this judgment. It's not just that it's unkind, it's that it works. It keeps people small. It keeps people quiet. It keeps people performing a version of themselves that stopped being true years ago because the alternative feels too dangerous. I know someone, and I'll keep this vague because it's not my story to tell, but this person has been carrying a truth about who they are for a long time and hasn't shared it with someone they love very much because they're not confident that love would survive it. And I don't know that it wouldn't. Nobody does until it's tested. But that fear is real enough that it's shaping a relationship, keeping it a little more distant, a little more guarded than it could be. And that makes me want to flip the question around, because it's easy to talk about the fear of judgment from the person doing the hiding. It's harder and maybe more useful to ask the question from the other side. If someone in your life is hesitating to be fully known by you, is that only about them? Or have you, somewhere along the way, without meaning to, built a space that doesn't feel safe to land in? I'm not saying that's always the case. Sometimes the fear belongs entirely to the person carrying it, and it has nothing to do with you. But it's worth asking anyway. Am I someone people can bring their real selves to? Or have I, somewhere along the way, made it clear that only certain versions of them are welcome here? Because if we want people to stop hiding, stop performing, stop staying frozen in who they used to be, it can't only be on them to be brave. Some of it has to be on us to be safe. I don't have a tidy little answer for any of this. I wish I did. I can't tell you how to stop caring what other people think. Not really. Not in a way that actually works when you're standing in the moment, feeling the weight of someone else's judgment. I still feel it sometimes. I probably always will in one place or another. But maybe the point was never to stop caring completely. Maybe it's just to notice when the fear of being judged is quietly deciding things for you, deciding what you say, what you become, who you let yourself be, before you've even had the chance to choose. And maybe it's to look at the people in your own life a little differently too. Not just, am I brave enough to change out loud, but am I safe enough to be changed around? Both questions matter. Neither one has a clean finish line. If this episode hit something in you, I want you to drop a mirror emoji in the comments. That's it. That's the whole ask. Just let me know you're out there. And if you've got more in you today, finish this one in the comments. If I weren't afraid of being called a liar for it, I would blank. And if you're still sitting there thinking of someone who's been holding back, someone who might need to hear that both things can be true, or someone who might need to look at the space they're creating for the people they love, share this episode with them. That's the share that actually matters. Don't forget to like it, comment, and subscribe. But mostly, if you know who this is for, let them know you were thinking of them. Until next time, be a little more human, a little more on purpose. All my love.